Oh, that's so dope. If you're on YouTube, come to the Zoom. I'm putting the link here, or you just stay on YouTube. I'll probably stream the whole thing to YouTube. This is Science of Peace podcast, deeper yoga practice. All right. Didgeridoo. Zalem. Good job, Zalem. Turn off the seat. All right. Instagram, you know what to do. Come to the Zoom. The Zoom link is in the bio. Right there. Bam. Bam. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. All right. Record to computer. Yeah. Welcome, Science of Peace podcast. I'm talking about a deeper experience of yoga, a yoga practice. Remember, yoga is not the thing that you do. Yoga is a state of mind, which is non-fluctuating mind, not churning over, not thinking. Ideas, maybe they pop up, but your attention doesn't get pulled. You keep your center. And the center is the place of observation of the mental fluctuations, the worries, the doubts, the self-talk, the imaginings. You be in control of the imaginings. You be a step behind it. That is a state of yoga. These practices that we do are practices to get there. Now, why is that so desirable? That it depends the story of why that's so desirable. Hold on, this is a new person. Make sure it's not a hacker, so I need to be ready because I've been hacked before. The story of why it's desirable to maintain your center and maintain creating your center. You keep creating it because you'll lose it. The environment pulls on your senses, and your senses get grabbed by your sight, the sound, the smells, the tastes, the feelings, the temperatures, and up goes the mind in between you and what you're observing, giving you all perceptions and narrations, a bent, warped perception of what really is, you know? Because if you were born somewhere else in the world, or if you were born right where you were, but then at day 3 or day 4 years old, you were given to other parents and raised differently, you'd have different personality. Your whole universe would be different, but you would still be you. Everything would mean differently. You might even have similar beliefs. Who knows? If you recall, you could be raised in China. You have the hardware to learn how to speak Mandarin just as easily. You can learn Inuit. You can learn tribesmen. You can learn anything. And so the senses are pulling you into the auto responses. Your mind gets kicked up by the senses with preconceptions. And to disconnect from how the world has hooks into you. This is why it's so vital to practice yoga before you open up your door and go out into the world. You can do it later. You can do it any time. But as you do more repetitions, month in and month out, year in and year out, you'll start to see the disturbance of the world will come in. And it puts up a wall of cloudiness between you and the world. And so a deeper yoga experience is going to be any tools and devices you can use to step yourself into your subconscious mind, downwards, in. The breathing is one of the easiest because it's a semi-autonomic function that basically happens on its own. You don't ever have to think about breathing, But you can think about breathing if you want to. You could stop at any time, but not for very long. But you can enhance that if you prepare. You can decrease that if you're not prepared. Like but you can't hold it for. It's one of those weird things. Like if you're running and you breathe in sync with your step, you can run further. So it has this mechanical function to pushing your limbs, because that's what happens. It coordinates the muscles of running with the muscles of breathing. If you breathe right when you're powerlifting, you can push more, because when you increase pressure in your thoracic cavity and your abdominal cavity, the torso, the pressure, it's like a balloon. It can make rigid your whole vascular system, and it helps. It's like a water hose that gets water through it or something. It gets rigid. You can push outwards when you know how to do that with your rib cage, and it all comes from breathing. It's a breath hold and it's a breath push. Meditation, a lot of times, if you're going inwards, is going to be halted by physical agitations from lack of breathing. You'll stop breathing when you start trancing out, going inwards to the deep, dark void. Or just get caught up in observing some imagining or some focus drill or whatever. You'll stop breathing. And you'll literally suffocate and take a deep breath and wake up a little bit. And then all of a sudden it'll change flavor. Instead of keeping equanimity throughout the meditation, which would be just a very, very steady, mild breath that takes little to no focus, but it's just enough that it doesn't paralyze. It's one of those things that when we get captivated by something on the outside, when we're gripped by whatever, just like grips us, our breath paralyzes and it just stops, it halts in observation. It can be a beautiful thing, because as you learn with deeper breath holds, as you start practicing breath holds, one of the coolest things that happens is you notice that there is actually a sound to your breathing. That maybe when you practice yoga or you're practicing some exercise, obviously you have breathing. It's loud, like you're breathing. There's a sound to it. But when you're just living, there's a sound to your breathing. And there's a lot of sounds happening in your environment you're not hearing, because there's a lot of sounds internal to your body and your bones and everything that you actually have an internal sound of life. And when you hold your breath and sit still or lay still, you experience life minus the internal sounds. The internal sounds stop. Now, this happens, you can hold your breath for 10 seconds, but I tell you what, if you charge up and hold your breath for 2 minutes, you're going to go deeper into relaxing into the silence. Because for the first 10 seconds, you're more alert and you're listening for more. And as you relax, that's what happens in like Shavasana. So you practice stretching. A deeper yoga practice will be anything that can maintain your health over time so that you can keep practicing. That won't inflame you in a certain practice so you feel overstretched or fatigued or worn out, so that you can keep going. Duration is a variable in this thing. I have stretched for like 4 hours before. It's not necessarily like, it's a duration of quality. So that was ridiculous, really. I think I was high on coffee or something. I don't even know. But the duration of quality, you need tools that keep your attention. The story of why you want the balance and equanimity inside is because when you find centering, every time, 100% of the time, I'll say 90%. Should be better, right? Yes. No. Yeah. Okay, good. I was saying, um, the mind centering, off centering, you get absorbed into thoughts that aren't you. They're just thoughts. Like every thought is just some thought. Like whatever sentence I could say to myself, I'm hungry. That's not me. And that's not even my thought, because how many trillions of times other people have thought the exact same sentence? So it's not really, I don't own that thought. That's not mine. How's it mine that if somebody else could just think it? I'm hungry. Take a more complex thing. I should save more money. That's still not my thought. How many people have said that? How many times? Take another thought. The ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter is some endless number called pi. Okay, that's a thought. That's an idea that maybe only a few people have ever had originated, but just the fact that it already existed before anybody invented it, because it was an observation of something. So it became a sentence or a word or a symbol symbolizing of something that already existed. And probably, maybe, plausibly, somewhere else in the universe was also observed. So it's not that we created it. We just tapped into what's there already. Language just taps into what's there already. It symbolizes it so that your nervous system can create a pattern out of the light symbol, out of the sound symbol, the gesture symbol, all the whole communication of it just creates a pattern, and it means something. And so we associate a whole image and movie or picture concept with a symbol, which is like a word or a gesture. And then we have grammar and syntax where we could put all kinds of symbols together to make a real complex idea. You don't even know how smart you are until you try to explain yourself to a dog, which is like a super, like how evolved is that compared to bacteria? Like so many hundreds of millions of years, and it can't even understand, anything I said, really. It can only understand sound, which basically a tree can understand sound. Yell at a tree and it changes how it grows. We're actually not that much more evolved. We just have all of these symbols now. We've got that part of our brain. We don't go into why, but we use it against ourselves by shit talking ourselves all the time and doubting ourselves and all these negative statements that negate our forward motions because maybe they'll be harmful. If they're harmful, then don't do it. If you don't know if it's harmful, ask yourself, what don't I know? That's the unknown in this. That's why I'm hesitating, because maybe you need to know something. If that's not it, then you're hesitating because of something inside that's invisible to everybody, and it's your mind. And so the outside only sees your hesitation. The inside, you see the whole conversation. But do you? That's why going deeper in yoga practice to catch the conversation, because your emotions are not random. That's the problem with pseudo spirituality and feminism. It's basically infiltrated spirituality to say that follow your emotions. Your impulses and your whims, these intuitions, these spirited escalators to divinity. Fuck that. Man, your intuition, your wave of emotion has so much to do with your upbringing that you don't even remember. Tell me about your childhood. How much detail are you going to remember? Really, if you lived for the first 6 years of your life, okay, so a third of that you're asleep. So 4 years. Are you going to have 4 years of conversation to tell me like what happened? You don't even remember most of it. You have like 3 events. If I really got you talking, you could talk for a little while, but how much are you going to miss? How much are you going to skirt over because it's painful? That's actually patterned who you are. Not to mention that you can't even talk about it. So it's patterned you in the sense that you can't talk about it. You're God or goddess. Let's just say God. You're God inside of flesh, and you can't say those words because it's hurtful. It hurts too much. So you've been suppressed and cut off from your divinity through trauma, forced coercion, and language. Meaning what? I hurt you. while I tell you something, and later someone doesn't need to hurt you. They can just say those same words to you and it remembers the feeling of it. And all of a sudden you're triggered because some words were said. They're like key codes to the whole nervous system. And yet they don't exist. They do because, I mean, I can print it down and write it down, but then that could burn up. I mean, it does exist, but it doesn't. You know, it's so transient. So we should learn how these associations, a deeper yoga practice will lead to a fascination with words and their control over you, basically, as you liberate yourself. A good yoga practice gets you involved with life and enjoying your internal you know, there's life that we can all observe, and then there's each person's experience of life that's them. Like a girl says to me, it's not them, I mean, it's their story. A girl says to me, we don't talk enough. I say, we talk enough. It's the same thing is happening, but two people are saying two different things about the same thing. And that's happening for everything. Everything we all interpret individually. And if we got to talking for a long time, we would see actually how much we disagree. That's the problem of relationships, really. We unify so fast on the sexual, not realizing mentally we're actually very not unified. But that takes immaculate communication skills and a whole lot of discipline and willpower to drudge through all the brainwashing literally on earth through symbols, pictures, sounds, and trauma. It is an elite few and everybody else. And we're waking up to our conditions, and who knows how far we'll be able to take it. You know, we start the conversation. I have a yoga retreat coming up on April 9, 10, 11, live here in San Jose. And I'm going to teach these people over about 12 to 14 hours an assortment of practices and how to piece them together so that there's endless combinations of how to just practice yoga to guide yourself into a place of tranquility, into a place of self-respect, into a place of clarity, so that you can actually have an ambition in life that's not so colored by the blind spots of your subconscious mind, that you're chasing something, that you're chasing an itch, but not where the itch is. You're trying to scratch it, but in the wrong space. You know, you got to take off the cast to get to the right space where the itch is, but that's going to be vulnerable. So I'm going to teach you how to build up from inside, but in a space, in a safe space that we can go deeper, because duration is a variable in this thing in transmitting yoga. 30-minute classes can only get you 30 minutes deep each time. So a retreat offers an opportunity to really hand over the tool belt and show you how to use it. So that's going on. And of course, the Silent Fluid is happening on ninthlimb.com. Check that out. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you're hearing it. And if there's any comments or questions, we got a good audience here live. You can go ahead and unmute. I'll take one if there's, you know, one right out there that's, you know, ready. If not, then we'll just end it. It's not a problem. There's the Telegram groups also happening, the men's Telegram, the women's Telegram. So find me on Instagram if you want that. I don't just distribute those links just for everybody's privacy. So find me on Instagram, Yoga Bliss Chris, or, you know, however, get a hold of me, however. All right. Okay. That is all. Everybody here should be at my yoga retreat live, or it's offered online, and I look forward to hearing from you. See you.